Let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow because this team is in a very confusing spot. Now, they just came off a terrible year. They had Super Bowl aspirations, and those aspirations should always be there as long as Joe Burrow is a starting quarterback with this team. The problem with Joe Burrow the last couple of years, he has been able to stay healthy. And this is a guy that's dealing with injuries before the preseason starts because the injuries coming out of training camp. Now, a couple of years ago, when he first came to the NFL, the offensive line was just abysmal from tackle to tackle, and he had a torn ACL. That wasn't on him. But we've seen in the past, he dealt with an appendix issue. He missed some time. It was a slow start to the season. And then we saw it this season as well. He was dealing with that calf injury. We saw what was going on in training camp. He missed all the preseason. And I do believe that they would have benefited long term if he would have missed the first 2 to 3 weeks of this season. Because the first 2 games, Joe Burrow did not look like his usual self. That calf injury really hurt his play. Joe Burrow is a quarterback that's one of the best quarterbacks in the game. You can say that he holds on to the football for too long. That can be true at times, but he has very good mobility, and he is one of the most accurate quarterbacks on the run and also staying in the pocket as well. He can dissect your defense, and it doesn't matter what coverage you're playing. But the first 2 weeks of this season, we got to see how Joe Burrow was not the same quarterback due to that injury. He was 14 of 31 against the Cleveland Browns for 82 passing yards, 0 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions. You can put an asterisk to this game. It was the first game of the season, and it was also a crazy rainy game. It was terrible. But in week 2 against the Baltimore Ravens, he still did not look the same, and they lost that game by 3 points. Joe Burrow in that game was making elite level throws, but he could not step up into the pocket fully late in the game. He was 27 of 41, 222 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns to 1 interception. And they got their first win of the year against the Los Angeles Rams in a beautiful Monday night football game. The reason why I say it was a beautiful Monday night football game, Joe Burrow did not play the best in that game, but the defense went out there and they manhandled the offensive line of the Los Angeles Rams. And it was one of the few cases this season to where the defense showed up and they had a complete game. The secondary looked very good, and they were giving Matthew Stafford a lot of problems up front with those elite level guys that they have. I'll get with the defense in a couple of minutes. But when you look at Joe Burrow early on this season, it was a lot of struggles with his offense because he was not the same. Then when he did get healthy, that's when we saw how good the Cincinnati Bengals can be on the offensive side of things. The last loss that they had with Joe Burrow before they lost against the Houston Texans and the Baltimore Ravens, he looked very good. Against the Arizona Cardinals, they won that game 34-20. He was 36 of 46, 317 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns to 1 interception. And then also against the San Francisco 49ers, a tough San Francisco 49ers team. They had a beautiful victory, 31-17. In that game, Joe Burrow was 28 of 32, 283 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns to 0 interceptions. They did have a tough loss against the Houston Texans, but Tyler Boyd dropped a crucial pass in the red zone. If he does not drop that pass, they could go on and potentially win that game. And we all know what happened against the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday night. He popped his wrist and he was out for the rest of the season. Jake Browning did come in and he looked good for a couple of games. But after that, nothing was going to be the same because Joe Burrow is the nucleus of their offense. They are a different team when Joe Burrow is on the field. And it's crazy because you can say this about every team in the NFL. When their starting quarterback goes down, they're not going to be the same. But it's a huge drop-off with Joe Burrow. In my opinion, in the past, they have been too Joe Burrow dependent. They should have ran the football more early on this season because they knew that he was dealing with those injuries. Instead, they forced Joe Burrow to go out there and throw the football 45 plus times in the game dealing with that calf injury. So the biggest thing with the Cincinnati Bengals for this upcoming season is to continue to build this offensive line and to keep Joe Burrow healthy. Go light in training camp, ease him into the preseason because this is a quarterback he needs to play in the preseason. He would benefit a lot if he played just a lot of snaps in the preseason. He does have to play every single game, but just get him into the flow, knock off that rust, and I believe that he can be very good come week 1 for this upcoming season. And the Cincinnati Bengals, like I mentioned before, they will always be a team that can go out there and possibly be a Super Bowl contending team as long as Joe Burrow is healthy because of the weapons that they have with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Jamar Chase is one of the best wide receivers in the game. When it's time to pay Jamar Chase, he is going to get paid a lot of money. Jamar Chase on won this season, had 100 receptions for 1,216 receiving yards and 7 receiving touchdowns. And he was doing that with Joe Burrow that was dealing with injuries for the first couple weeks of the season, and also a backup quarterback in Jake Browning as well. And you also have another number 1 wide receiver in T. Higgins. Some people do not believe that T. Higgins can go out there and be a true number 1, but we've seen it in the past. When Jamar Chase has missed time dealing with a hip injury in the past, T. Higgins comes in and he looks like he's one of the best wide receivers in the game. And the problem is this: they franchise tagged him. He wants to be traded. He wants a contract extension. At the end of the day, the Cincinnati Bengals cannot pay everyone. It's the reason why they just went out and traded Joe Mixon. You already have a guy in Jamar Chase that you're going to have to pay sooner than later. You're already paying Joe Burrow a lot of money. Trey Hendrickson is getting paid a lot of money as well. He's their star defensive end. So you have all these guys that are going to eventually get paid. They can move off of T. Higgins, but it would be in their best interest to keep him around. Tyler Boyd is no longer with this team as I record this video, but you still have some solid options in that receiving room behind T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And Trenton Irwin is one of those guys. I think that Trenton Irwin can be a very good number 3 wide receiver with this team if you give him the opportunity. You also went out and signed Mike Gesicki as well. My thing is this with Mike Gesicki: he's a tight end that has all the potential to be a very good tight end, especially playing behind guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And the thing is with this, we saw this a couple years ago. Hayden Hurst benefited a lot from playing alongside those guys. Mike Gesicki can benefit a lot. The one position that this team has missed on the offensive end besides the offensive line has been that tight end spot with this team. As I mentioned before, they traded Joe Mixon. I like that move. I think that he'll be very good with the Houston Texans. And I think the Cincinnati Bengals are getting a cheaper running back that right now fits the system better. Zach Moss is a very good running back that you can depend on. But Chase Brown is a very interesting running back. He has a lot of speed. And when I mean a lot of speed, he has a lot of speed. He can go out there and he can take a play for 40 to 50 yards. And we saw this season with a screen pass. He's not going to be an every down running back with this team. That's what you have Zach Moss for. But with explosive plays, he can be that guy with this team. I know that you look at his numbers, he only averaged 4 yards a carry. But you give him more volume, he can be a very good running back playing alongside Zach Moss. And it brings me to this offensive line. They went out and they did sign Trent Brown, a very good tackle if he can stay healthy. 579 snaps played, only 3 sacks allowed. Any upgrades to the offensive line would help this team out, even in the NFL draft. But their defense needs a lot of work as well. The biggest thing with them offensively is to keep Joe Burrow healthy, and it starts with that offensive line. They went out, they signed Orlando Brown. Orlando Brown allowed 7 sacks on 1,058 snaps played. He was not that transition tackle that they were looking for, that transcendent tackle that they were looking for. I think that Orlando Brown is a solid tackle at times, but he is definitely not that franchise needle mover that they were looking for to come in and help out Joe Burrow. And it's always this notion, going back to Joe Burrow's sophomore season, he holds on to the football for too long. He's the reason why he is getting sacked. And the playoff run, when they went to that Super Bowl against the Los Angeles Rams, he held the football for 1.5 seconds less. That is a huge drop-off from what he was doing in the regular season. He is not the reason why he's getting sacked majority of the time. It's just terrible offensive line play. They had a great chance to go out there and defeat the Los Angeles Rams. Jamar Chase was wide open, but the pressure got to him. The offensive line has to be better, and they have to find that balance between making Joe Burrow the hero at times and also running the football and helping him out as well. Every single game cannot be Joe Burrow going out there and throwing the football 45 plus times in the game. He can handle that, but you open him more up to injuries and more to turnovers as well. This is a guy that's went out there. He's beat the Kansas City Chiefs numerous times. He's beat some of the best teams in the NFL numerous times. But you have to give him a fighting shot, and it starts with the offensive line, with the interior and with the tackles as well with this offensive line. But I like the nucleus that they have in place right now. But the biggest thing is to keep Joe Burrow healthy. This is what makes this team so confusing, because you have all that great talent on the offensive side of things. When you look at their defense, on paper, they're not a bad defense. But when you look at the numbers, they were one of the worst passing defenses in the NFL. You have a very good front seven with guys like Sam Hubbard, who has 6 sacks on the season. He can get to the quarterback. He can stop the run. You have B.J. Hill as well, who is a very good run-stopping defensive tackle with this team. 4.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, some crazy interceptions this season. He's a very good playmaker. Sheldon Rankins is an older player, but he has 6 sacks this season, 1 forced fumble, and we all know that he can come in and stop the run, and he can push the pocket as well. And then you have the sack master himself, Trey Hendrickson, 17.5 sacks on the season and 3 forced fumbles. He's a legitimate game changer with this team, and he's their best defensive player, hands down. And their linebackers are solid as well. I like Jermaine Pratt, and I like Logan Wilson as well. Logan Wilson is a very good linebacker. 78 solo tackles, 1 sack, 3 forced fumbles, and 4 interceptions. And this defense, the front 7, had a great game against the Minnesota Vikings when Joe Burrow was out. And they had a very good game against Kansas City Chiefs as well, their front 7. It's their secondary that has went out there and hasn't held up their end of the deal. When you look at a guy like Daxton Hill, he's been a complete bust with this team. I'm sorry to say it. I know a lot of Cincinnati Bengal fans have hope out there that he can be a better safety moving forward. He is a bust. It's a reason why you went out there and signed Geno Stone from the Baltimore Ravens, who is a very good safety to have on your team. He has 7 interceptions this season and 9 pass deflections. This is a guy that can take the football away and give it back to Joe Burrow and that crew on the offensive end. They need more playmakers in the back end of that defense, and you have that with Geno Stone. Jordan Battle is a very interesting safety as well. 5 pass deflections, 1 interception. He's still young. He's 23 years old. There's still hope for that kid to play good. But when you look at a guy like Daxton Hill, he's just not a good safety in the NFL. And if it was up to me, if you did not want to just have him as a backup safety, you could easily cut Daxton Hill. Daxton Hill is just terrible with this team. You did lose Chidobe Awuzie. He was a solid cornerback with this team. We will see if Cam Taylor-Britt can go out there and be a true number 1 cornerback with this team. He had a solid season this season. 1 forced fumble, 4 interceptions, and 1 pass deflection as well. 11 pass deflections as well, excuse me. And DJ Turner as well is a very interesting cornerback. He's only 23 years old. So you have a lot of young players in that secondary. You hope that they can grow, and you hope that Coach Lou can help them out as well. It was too many times this season that Coach Lou did not make the defensive adjustments when they needed to. Look at what Kenny Pickett did to them, and that's Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett made the defense look bad. Then when they went against the Steelers in the second game of the season, when they went against them for the second time, George Pickens had a field day against them. It was too many times this season to where wide receivers were giving them the works in the secondary. And a lot of it is because the players are not good enough. And the other half is because Coach Lou did not make those adjustments when he needed to. Coach Lou gets a lot of praise for how he can go out there and put pressure on the quarterbacks. But on the back end of that defense, he has to help these guys out. And that's sad to say because their front 7, they could go out there and generate a lot of pressure. You had one guy that had 17.5 sacks on the season. And the quarterbacks are still finding a way to go out there and torch this defense no matter what. A lot of that comes down to game planning and terrible play as well from those players. Hopefully bringing in guys like Geno Stone can help out the Cincinnati Bengals defense as a whole. I think the Cincinnati Bengals will be a tough team to beat, but this is a hell of a division. We say this every single year, but it's really a hell division. You have the Baltimore Ravens. That's a tough team every single year. The Steelers, we know they're going to be tough with Mike Tomlin. Then you also have the Cleveland Browns as well. And some people scoff at the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns have been a thorn in the Cincinnati Bengals side over the last couple of years. And they match up with them very well, especially with the offensive line not playing up to standard with the front 7 that they have. So the Cincinnati Bengals are in a very weird, confusing state. I will say this. If they do not have major success for this upcoming season and Joe Burrow is fully healthy, do not be shocked if you hear Zach Taylor's name being on the hot seat list. Because that could possibly happen. And do not be surprised this team does not have major playoff success with this upcoming season. They may move off of Coach Lou as well and also Zach Taylor as well. But let me know in the comment section below how do you guys feel about the Cincinnati Bengals and anything that I missed in this video. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Guys, thanks for taking your time out to listen to my video. God bless every single last one of you guys. Have a great day. Peace.